What is going on, everyone? Welcome to Impact Income and Influence, the number one show for monetization strategy on the internet. My name is Steve Warner. I am your host, and I am joined today by Jimmy Coleman, the CEO and founder of Leadballer. If you guys are interested in using LinkedIn to grow your business, he is doing something that nobody else in the space is doing. It is absolutely revolutionary. I used the service. I had great success with it. Jimmy is an awesome, high energy dude, and I am super excited to have him on the show. Jimmy, welcome.
Yes, fired up to be here, man.
Dude. So what's really exciting about your story, which I've gotten to see, is not that long ago, you were trying to figure out your place. You were trying to figure out how to gain traction. You were using LinkedIn. You were helping people gain some stuff there, but you weren't having the massive success that you are now. So take us back to the beginning. Where did all of this start for you, and why LinkedIn?
Yeah, it is funny, man. We did go from like June of 2019 is when I made my first hire, Tina, who's still crushing it today with us, and now it's late summer, I guess early fall 2020, and there's 25 plus people on the team, and we're still hiring people. And so I'll weave that into the story. But there was a period of time where it's like, man, I'm making other people a lot of money, but how do I create a model where I can do that for myself? So, but a lot of people, especially when someone is going to be helping them with something, they want to know like what their story was to discover an answer in order to know that this is someone that they can take advice from. And so mine is a pretty simple story. I graduated high school in 2012, and at that point in my life, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I thought maybe I want to be a teacher. I like being a role model to people, but I never had good grades. I was in the 2 to 3.0 GPA range, and just never was never a celebrated person academically, and the trajectory of my success was not looking too good from the world view at that point. But over the summer, I found a job actually selling Cutco knives, and I loved it. And it was something where I was seriously working so hard at it that I was forgetting to eat. Like I was so excited that like the day would go by and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I haven't eaten today. And it's just because I was like trying to crush my goals all day. And it was such an awesome feeling, waking up like it's Christmas every day. And it was actually funny about that. I was beating everyone in my office. I was beating people all around the state and nationally, breaking records. And actually the valedictorian of my high school, someone who's very celebrated academically, really awesome trajectory of where they would go in life. I crushed him too. And so it started making me think maybe these rules of society don't really apply to me. I'm someone that can break these rules and have success. And then school started, and I was sat back in a desk and talked at for hours at a time, and about random things like the history of baseball. As I remember, like a random topic, I was like, here we go again. And I remember the contrast of my energy just going from, again, working so hard, I was forgetting to eat, like just super excited about everything going on in life. I was making commas on my paycheck for the first time at 18 years old, which is neat. And then sitting in a desk and just the energy level dropping and remembering where I was just a few months prior. And within 2 weeks, I quit college. It took me 2 weeks to drop out of college. And I told my parents that I was going to drop out of college and sell knives full time for the rest of my life, which you can imagine was a tough sell.
What was their response to that?
They, in their mind, they wanted to feel like they were allowing me to be an adult. They made that decision for, I'm the youngest of four, that once you're 18, you're an adult, you make decisions for yourself. But, it also, they love me and care about me. Like it brought them a lot of pain for me to come to them and say this. So they encouraged me to talk to other people and whatever. But honestly, in Waynesboro, Virginia, there wasn't really anyone that I was going to talk to that was living the life that I wanted to have anyway. So I didn't end up really talking to anybody. I just kind of went for it. And, but even then, when I went for it, I went all in and they supported me with that. And so I ended up running one of the top offices for the company, stayed with the company for 3 years, and eventually thought that maybe I can make more money applying that much energy towards something else besides kitchen utensils. And so I was like, how about the financial industry? And so I messed around in the financial industry, and that's when actually my introduction into LinkedIn really, or I started using it more intentionally, because again, I'm in this small town and there's not a lot of like entrepreneurs and C-level executives and people that I wanted to get meetings with. And so I had to get creative and do something that no one else was doing at the time. This is 5 or 6 years ago. And everyone in my office kind of asked me not to do, because it's a very slow moving industry. So I started messing around, and I was like the original spammer. I made a lot of mistakes, just reaching out to people and realizing that people would never want to talk to me again based off of just playing the numbers game. And, in Cutco, you learn the numbers game. The numbers game never fails. That was my edge. I wasn't the best closer. I just made more calls than anyone else, got more referrals than anyone else, and played the numbers game. And I learned the law of that. But in the financial industry, no one wants to get financial help from the guy that was the desperate marketer. And so I had to up my marketing game and learn how to be a little more stealthy in the way that I was approaching my prospects. And I eventually, just through persistence, developed this process where I was actually having my dream prospects, multimillionaires, when I'm 21 years old, sending me messages first. And then even if they didn't take the bait of sending me the message first, because I would do a couple things and I can share that maybe later on, at least doing a good job of warming them up and getting a high response rate to these multimillionaires and stuff, to get to talk to this low 20 something, financial advisor. And my biggest problem was I didn't know what to do once I got the meeting, but I was getting a lot of meetings nonetheless. I eventually bumped into, through my process, prospected the guy that was the CEO of the fastest growing company in North Carolina. They're only a couple years old, but he kept trying to convince me to work for him. And I said no so many times, but eventually I said yes, moved down there and helped them grow out their company. Within the first year, we doubled the size of the sales team from 25 to almost 50 salespeople. That wasn't our job, by the way. We just kind of did that. And then we did a couple million in revenue, but then the next year we kind of honed it and taught a lot of other people in the company. And this LinkedIn process helped create, I'm sure, over 8 figures in revenue for the company. And that's when a lot of people start asking questions in different industries outside of the company, from recruiting to SaaS to coaches, consultants, whatever. People asking, what is it that you're doing on LinkedIn that's working? I started sharing it. And these people told me that it was way better than what some other LinkedIn expert taught them just a few months ago. And that gave me a lot of confidence. Once I heard that enough times, I had enough confidence to develop a course. That way I could share it with my friends easier without having to re-explain myself every time. And then I left that company and I launched my own coaching business, Grow and Give. And when I was doing Grow and Give, I did anything from, having CEOs fly me out to speak to their sales team, speaking on stage, I hosted the first ever LinkedIn retreat, where we bought out a lake mansion and had people flying from all over the country, so I could teach them my process for a few days and have a lot of fun that way. And the thing that I ran into was I realized that maybe in some cases 1 out of 5 or some cases 1 out of 10 people would actually implement the strategy. When people did, we have amazing testimonials of people going from 12,000 a month in revenue to 30,000 within 2 weeks of implementing our process, and really awesome, just great testimonials like that. But the majority of the time, people would give me their money and then wouldn't do anything, and therefore wouldn't have any benefit. And it's their fault, it's their problem. But I want to wake up every day feeling like I'm actually making a real impact on people's lives. And so at the beginning of 2020, I pretty much stopped coaching a lot of people and picked up a couple clients that would allow me just to take the controller and do it for them. One of those companies most people have never heard of before, but they have over 1,000 employees. They're paying me $10,000 a month just to do it for them. The other company was TikTok, actually. Both companies had to actually fire me within 3 to 5 weeks. So TikTok, for example, they wanted 150 leads in 5 weeks, and we got them over 1,100 in 3 weeks. And so I think that they just didn't check the spreadsheet where we're storing all the leads until like a few weeks later, like, oh my gosh, they opened up. There's way too many people. And then the other company after 5 weeks said, hey, we got way too many leads. Like we need to put this on pause. And that's when we knew we had something really good. And like we're overloading people with leads. And it was such a fun feeling, especially for TikTok, because I got to fly out to their event where we were generating leads, and too many people showed up. They had to split the event into 2 events on 2 levels, and they were still standing room only. The rooms were hot and sticky, kind of like it was chaos and amazing. Like I loved it. So we launched Lead Baller, where we essentially take out the process of you learning this strategy that, some of the very well-known companies were paying me a lot of money to teach them. And now we just say, hey, how about we just do it for you? And we do it at scale. And so that's how Lead Baller was born.
So, I mean, I just want to like recap this because I'm going to hold up a little bit of a mirror. You started off Cutco knives, which I didn't know you sold Cutco knives. I sold Cutco knives as well.
No way,
Dude,
man.
You go get your best knife and I'll use this knife. You can sharpen it all you want. Let's cut this rope. Let's see which rope cuts better. Right. If you don't know what that means, don't worry. Somebody will sell you a Cutco knife.
That's right.
So you were selling Cutco knives, but the reason you were good at it, first off, most people would be mortified to sell Cutco knives, right? They're not a salesperson, but you loved it. You knew that's where your energy was. Right. And even though you had your parents telling you need to go to college and do the safe, get a job, do what everyone else does, you knew you had to do something different, and you had the courage to step out and do that.
Right.
That's going to replay itself all the way through till now. The other thing was you were really good at generating leads, and you're really good at just playing the numbers game, right? Like, I'm going to generate more leads than anyone else, which is going to equal more sales than anyone else. Because really, even if you have a great sales process, you have to generate the numbers.
Right.
So then you did that in the financial sector, which led to people asking you how, right? Most people don't want to generate leads. They just want to sell the product.
Yeah.
They just want to do the thing.
A lot of people pride themselves in being a great closer. And that I've always been the opposite of that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, even like chiropractors, right? Love to be the best chiropractor, but they don't want to do any sales, marketing. They don't want to generate anything. You took the opposite. You're like, I'll generate all the leads in the world. And now I don't know how to close them. Like, I don't know what to do with them, but I have all the leads.
Yeah.
So everybody wants to know your process, which leads you to start doing your thing and like find the confidence to build the course. And then eventually you realize what I think everybody who has a course realizes: everybody wants things done for them. They don't want to learn the process. They do, but really they just want the outcome. And you're like, okay, I'm going to give them the outcome. I'm going to teach people. I'm not going to teach people. I'm just going to get them the outcome. And then you do such a good job for TikTok that they're like, dude, you blew up our conference, which I know exactly the feeling of being in that room and like,
oh yeah,
standing room only, wall to wall people. It's hot. It's sweaty. People are excited to be there. And TikTok was probably like, man, how did we get here? Like, this is crazy. So then we're in the middle, like this is January, February, COVID hit.
Exactly.
We're in the middle of a pandemic. And you're still blowing up. You're hiring people left and right. You're exploding people's leads on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about what the last 6 months has been like for you.
Yeah, especially with every company came out with like their own presidential address, right? And for me, at first I was like, I'm not even going to address this thing. It's like, just keep plowing through, but I felt like I should because people were making a big deal of it. And so here was my presidential address. I just said to all of our clients, I said, hey guys, so here's the thing. We're in the process of making you money. If we're still making you money, then you shouldn't fire us. It makes dollars and makes sense. Don't make it more complicated than that, right? If we're not making you money, you shouldn't keep us. And it was that simple. So as long as we kept doing our job and taking care of our clients, we have a lot of job security, and so that over the past 6 months has been really cool. As you know, Steve, it's much easier to sell a done for you thing versus a training, because then there's a lot more objections that come up in people's mind, like it going from good idea to actually results coming from it. And so when it's actually just being done for them, it's a much easier sell, which is great for us. And we've had to learn a lot about executing things at scale, because it's much different when you go from having fewer clients that are paying you a lot more money versus having a lot of clients that are paying you less money. Because any great idea that I have, there's a lot more logistics that go into it when it's being done at scale for a lot more clients. And so like, I'm very cautious about that. I store all my ideas, and I go to Justin, who's our chief experience officer. And I'm like, hey man, this is the idea. Like, why can't this happen? Like, just hit me with it. But no, it's been really cool, man. Even at the beginning of the year, it was me, Tina, and a VA. And now, like I said earlier, we got, over 25 people on the team. And this weekend, I'm fired up, because I remember when we were at this medical company, we did like quarterly outings. And the one that was we went to like a zoo and like some like random things like that. My favorite one by far was when we did like a go-kart competition. And that's what we're doing this weekend with my team now. And I always look forward to like having a team of my own and creating that culture. And we have a cool culture now too. Like we did a group interviews. We were interviewing someone the other day, and some of the newer people were actually in the interview, and they're like, I don't like that guy. He doesn't appreciate what we have here. And like, we had something really special. Like, they're like sticking up for the culture and stuff. And it's just really cool to see that, man. So
Dude, how awesome is that? I mean, so when you got out of high school, sold Cutco, quit college, it was because you had a vision and you knew that you were meant to do something. You were meant to make a difference. You knew what lit you up. And now it's really cool to see your path. You've done that with leads, which is something that most people would be like, that's probably pretty boring. But I know you have awesome culture. I mean, the culture at your company has got to be amazing. You're fired up about what you're doing. You're fired up about growing and getting people leads. So I want to kind of shift, because now people know why you do what you do. I want you to share if people are listening and they're like, dude, I've tried LinkedIn, or I've looked at LinkedIn and I have no idea how to connect with people on there. I know that you run a done for you service, but if people wanted to just take some step forward to get some kind of traction, what's something that either they should do with their profile or some way that they should reach out to people? What are a few tips and tricks that you could share with people?
That's the other thing I love about what we do now too, is that I went from selling the information to now I can give away the information. So whatever I tell you guys, I'm not going to hold back from anything, because it's not like, hey, I'm gonna give you the first 3 steps, and for the 4th step you have to click this link after the podcast and pay me $2,000. No, I'll give you guys whatever you want. So a big thing, and there's probably 2 different audiences listening right now. There's the audience that still has not like dipped their toe in the water of getting on board with LinkedIn. And they said they would in 2016, and it's still 2020 and they haven't done it yet. And then there's the people that are active on LinkedIn, have heard other LinkedIn experts, and are kind of bored with what the status quo is right now. Because right now the status quo is you create a target list on LinkedIn, and any monkey could do this. So you create a target list on LinkedIn. Whoever accepts your connection request, you spam them to death with the most boring copywriting, 3 paragraphs of like, hey, just came across your profile, thought it looked really interesting, blah, 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 blah. 3 paragraphs later, calendar link. And as if the person that they're sending that to they're the only person that's ever got a message like that before. People are getting 3 to 5 messages like that per day if you're going after a decent audience, right? So, the first thing I would say is if we're just talking like nuggets, is when you guys do outreach, try to at least not as much focus on what your copywriting is going to be. focus on how it's physically going to look. So when you send something, you can open up the LinkedIn mobile app. You can send a voice recording to someone. Usually where, if you open up the keypad where the send button would normally be on the right-hand side, there's actually a microphone icon. You hold that down and you can send an audio message to someone. And that's going to physically look different. Of all the crap in their inbox, they're going to see this audio message and it's going to look different from everything else everyone's sending them. It's going to feel much more personalized to them. And so I would highly recommend people trying that. Leadballer is right now the only company in the world, by the way, that's able to send those at scale. So you know that, and we don't have that many clients. So you know that people aren't getting many of those. And when people see them, they're not assuming that it's automated. The other thing you could do is, if people are watching, you could like hold up a sheet of paper and it says like, "Hey, Steve," on the sheet of paper, so that in the thumbnail, they can actually like see their name in the video. So film a video and send that to the prospect so that they know that the message is intended for them. And again, it stands out. They get to see your face. They get to see that you're a real human being and it's not being sent by a bot. I'm on my, one of my best friends is a chiropractor. I'm on his email list. I get his emails, and even though he's one of my best friends, I never open a single one, and I don't feel bad about it at all. I don't lose any sleep. However, if someone who I didn't even like was passing by my office and they were like waving at me, and I didn't like acknowledge them, I would feel bad about that. And it's because I'm looking at a real live human being and choosing to not engage with them. That's a much harder thing to do, right? So as much as you can in your outreach, humanize your outreach as much as you possibly can. Even make it funny. Like if someone doesn't follow up, if someone doesn't respond to you, follow up with a funny GIF, because you can add GIFs to your LinkedIn messages, and type in like ghosted and see what shows up for all the GIFs. And you'll find like a funny GIF of like how the prospect has been ghosting you and stuff. So have fun with your outreach. Get a little creative in what it looks like physically, and like the first 1 to 3 second reaction that your prospect is going to have, and that's going to immediately separate you from the crowd.
That is awesome. Really, really good advice. So what if they're sending a voice message or if they're sending a video message? Sorry, I was getting. Sorry. To everyone listening, somebody buzzed in. When they're doing this, what is something they can say in their messaging? Because I've definitely gotten those 3-paragraph, blah, blah, blah. What can they say to set themselves apart instead of, the normal blah? What should they be saying in their messaging, whether it's an audio message or a video message? If somebody actually clicks on it, what should they say that makes a difference?
Yeah, and this is another thing where I encourage it to be the shorter it is, the better, in my opinion. That's not just because I'm dyslexic, because even if it's a video, there's less of a commitment. If I see a video or an audio message is 20 seconds versus 59 seconds or something like that, there's less of a commitment there for me to engage with it, and I'm more likely to engage with it, right? Same thing with reading the paragraphs. I judge it immediately based off of the length. So remember to keep it simple. Remember to keep the tone of it as if you're not desperate. And I'll give you guys the exact copy as well that we kind of like to use, like the framework. But I wanted you guys to understand the methodology behind it and the principles behind it. So make sure you don't sound desperate, like as if they said yes or no, you don't really care. Like you have plenty of other options besides them. And so it'd be cool if they did say yes, but if they don't, that's okay too. Like you're cool. Instead of sounding like a desperate sales rep, right? That's really important. So an example could sound something like this, like, "Hey, name, saw that you're in the blank industry. We actually just got X result for someone else in the blank industry. I have no idea whether there's any way we could do the same thing for you, but what do you think about hopping on a call and seeing if there's any opportunity to potentially work together someday?" If you want to add in a little bit more fluff at the beginning of like we use it sometimes, like, "Hey, name, every time I log into LinkedIn, your profile keeps showing up. So I figured I'm finally sending you this message. And when I looked into it, I actually did see that you're in the insurance industry or whatever. We actually just got X result for someone else in the insurance industry. Or if you don't want to use specific case studies like that, you can name drop a little bit. Name dropping helps a lot, just so that people take you more seriously. But keep it a simple framework. Hey, if you want to, normalize the message. By saying that every time you log into LinkedIn, you see their profile kind of thing. And then say, I love using we actually just got X result for someone else in the X industry. I have no idea whether we could do the same for you, but what do you think about hopping on a call and seeing if there's any opportunity for us to ever work together in some way? And always end with a question mark. That's really important. I think some people are really tempted and they say, let me know. If you're interested, let me know. But then there's less of an obligation for that person to respond to you. They're obviously ignoring you if you ask a question and they don't respond. But if you give them the way out of when you say, let me know, it's like, well, I don't have to respond because maybe I'm not interested. But like just getting that conversation back and forth is really important. Either way, if they become a no at some point, make sure that they understand that you're okay with that and offer them some kind of value, whether it's a lead magnet of yours that they're going to view as something that's super valuable, or if it's a case study to like just really get them to explore you guys further, and anything you can do to get them on your list and get them to continue to see your stuff showing up is a really good idea, even if someone says no. So like, even if someone says no to me, I usually say, hey, no worries. I'm cool with just being connected for now. By the way, how's everything going in 2020 for you guys? And then they'll say something really short or something really long. Doesn't really matter. I'll say, yeah, I definitely feel like it's been a crazy year, but when it's all said and done, we'll all be better off because of it. By the way, I actually have a free Facebook group for people who want to learn how to generate a bunch of leads on LinkedIn. We just helped someone, make a $10,000 sale yesterday. Do you think anyone on your team would be interested in joining that? And then sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say no, but at least I'm getting some people to say yes versus just giving up as soon as they say no,
That's awesome. I mean, you just shared like 5 key things that people should do. It's a good thing that this is a podcast and on video. They can go back and check that out. I want to touch on, first off, always ending with a question is great because it opens the door. And if they don't want to respond, they won't. But if they do respond, it's opened something up.
Right.
Something I also read, I think it was an NLP book, but whoever asks the question holds the authority, because those people are answering you then. They're going to see you as they're looking to you for something, which is a great thing to do. I love sending an audio message because it super separates you from everyone else that's sending. Even if they're sending like 2 sentences, it's really easy to ignore those. But if I see it's an audio message, I'm going to listen to it. If I see it's a video of someone waving, I'm going to pay attention. Like you just shared a ton around how to message. Can you talk a little bit around what they should do with their profile? Because this is something I know you have a really different take on, but it's something that I've seen a lot of people have challenges around. How do I build out a linked out profile? How do I make it so that people actually read what's there? What do you recommend that people do?
100%, man. And there's a lot of I disagree with a lot of things, but it's more like for my clients, what is being taught most of the time isn't going to apply to them, because the type of clients that I like to work with, they're usually the type of clients that, kind of like when I was a financial advisor, I wanted to fill my pipeline, but I also had to have a type of relationship with my prospect and with my client where I was the authority. I was the advisor. And there's not everyone cares about that. There are some people that are obviously doing the guerrilla marketing thing and being very salesy on LinkedIn. But for a very high-end clientele, people selling really expensive things, or people that are coaches, consultants, anything like that, they want to be able to maintain that authority while also having a full pipeline. And so a lot of those marketers are actually afraid to prospect because they assume that you have to turn in your authority card in order to fill your pipeline. And we've kind of cracked the code there. So when it comes to your profile, you have to keep in mind when they're going to see your profile, and put yourself in the shoes of the person that you're prospecting with. And you have to keep in mind that there's other people that sell the same thing that you sell, and they're also sending connection requests to the same audience that you're targeting. It's a big world out there, and there's probably at least 10 other people that have tried, at least, depending on the industry that you're in. So you have to be aware that if they've gotten, let's say you're a financial advisor, if they've gotten 10 connection requests from other financial advisors who all end up spamming the crap out of them, do you think that they're going to want to accept another connection request from another financial advisor? Apply the same thing to a LinkedIn expert. I get hit up by LinkedIn experts all the time because their targeting isn't good. And it's like every day, 3 to 5 messages. And I will say, like, we have people that are very high up prospects of ours. We like recorded their reactions when we did Zoom calls with them. They're like, Jimmy, I get hit up by 3 to 5 people that do the same thing that you do every single day. They solve the same problem that you solve. You're the only person I've ever responded to. And a lot of that happens like on the back end from how we reach out. But if we had another like vendor type profile, another salesy type profile, I wouldn't have ever gotten the chance to send that audio message or that video message. Right. So this is the thing that it's kind of like the Trojan horse profile, right? Where it's not going to give ourselves away right at the very beginning. They're not going to stop us at the gate. Okay. So I want you guys to keep that in mind. Your profile doesn't have to answer every question about what you do, which is contrary to what most people would just assume, right? You want to like give everything away of what you do so people know very clearly. But if you follow my process, it's not as important for you to give everything away. I always tell people, position your LinkedIn profile with 2 words. One is as an authority, if you can show any kind of social proof or like you being interviewed for something or anything where there's an appearance of you have information that people want, that makes you look like a more valuable person, then that's a really good thing to showcase on your profile. Or any kind of just make it easy for the person to say yes to you. Make sure that they feel like they're not the first person on planet Earth that has ever said yes to you when they accept your connection request, right? So keep that in mind. When it comes to the other one is authenticity. That's the other A word for you. Authenticity is most people are completely missing out on this on LinkedIn. But I talk a lot about humanizing your LinkedIn profile. So like some people, go ahead.
How do you do that? Because I agree.
Right.
I think that is like the number one thing. Everybody wants to appear professional. Nobody wants to do business with somebody that's super cold and personal. They want to do business with a human being, somebody that they know, like, and trust. So how do you do that? What's the
The professional headshots are super bland to me. So there's really 4 key areas on your profile that you can showcase authority or authenticity. And at the very top of your profile is your banner or your background picture, right? The thing behind your profile picture. And a lot of people have a hard time finding the right measurements for that. Real quick, a piece of advice is go to canva.com, canva.com, and type in LinkedIn, and you'll see that in the search, there'll be a thing that's like LinkedIn banner, and just have a picture that'll fit to those measurements. And that's how you create a good LinkedIn banner. There you go. But in your LinkedIn banner, again, are we trying to, do we have opportunity to demonstrate authority or authenticity? Authority might be you speaking in front of a stage of people, right? Or it might be you with just a crowd of people that are visually endorsing you, right? That like they are interested in what you have to say, or they like you. There's some feeling of that. A picture of authenticity might be your family portrait. I saw a guy had a picture today. It was like him and his kids, and it was a funny picture of his kids like being really funny. And I liked the guy a lot more. I had a hard time. He was a competitor. I had a hard time looking at this guy as a competitor. And I wanted to actually like extend a hand out and say, hey man, how can we collaborate? Because I saw he's a real human being, right? I humanized him. I really like that. So in your banner, you can, again, demonstrate authority or authenticity. Same thing in your profile picture. That's a second area. Again, you speaking on stage, you explaining something. And because that's a much smaller picture, you don't even need to be explaining something to an audience of 1,000 people, right? It could be literally like, I'm looking around outside my window right now. There's 5 people in sight. And I can say, hey guys, let me just like tell you a story of, what happened on my 10th birthday. And someone take a picture of me as I'm explaining it to you, and boom, LinkedIn picture, right? So you can fake it till you make it with the authority thing if you have to. But again, I've had other clients where they chose authenticity in their profile picture. It was him giving his son a piggyback ride. Again, family is a great thing to use. People have used dogs before and stuff like that. A picture of them laughing at something is a great thing, but it does need to be a high quality picture so that people see that you represent quality at the very least. The third area is your headline. The headline is the thing either next to or below your name on your profile. And most people think that it's the same thing as a job title. It's not a job title. It has a different name. It's called a headline. And so again, most people just say, sales rep at whatever company or whatever it is. But I think this is a really good opportunity for you to find a creative way to describe what you do. And if it's funny, even better. There's a guy in Charlotte who he's a photographer, and his headline says, "I shoot people for a living." And I thought that was awesome. It stood out from everyone else. I've never sent a photographer a connection request before, but I definitely sent him one because I thought that was so cool. And but that's just a really great way for you to stand out. If you can have a viral kind of headline, or and if you can't find a way to be creative in describing what it is that you do or a byproduct of the result that you bring people in a fun or creative way, something that's going to stand out from everyone else, then you can just double down again on the authority thing, right? If you're the founder of a cool sounding company, you can kind of flex that in your headline, and it's going to look pretty good still, right? People are going to take you more seriously. The fourth part is your about section. And this is where, Steve mentioned something that's really important, is how do you actually get people to want to read about what it is that you do? Because what most people do in their about section is just most of the time it's like a brag sheet of either why they're the best at selling what they sell, or why their company is the best at selling what they sell, or executing their services. And the fact is that the way that most people are writing it, like, it doesn't get people to want to read it. And Steve knows this better than most people on planet Earth, that there's a really good format for getting people to actually read what it is that you do. It's called story selling. And in LinkedIn, there's a pretty simple format that you can use for this. I just have like 3 parts to it. And the first part is a hook. So in this case, your hook might be a significant life event. So, my wife, Morgan, she actually put her quote of the letter that she got in the mail. It was her rejection letter into nursing school. She quoted it. And then she explained, like, she interpreted it. Like, she said, like, you're not good enough. You'll never be a nurse, things like that. And then and the second part of this is the body. So you got the hook and then the body. And the body, you just give context to the hook. So she said something like, most people don't know this about me, but I actually had to apply into nursing school 4 times before I was accepted. And, this is something I felt really embarrassed about. And she just kind of explains the hook in the body of what was going on in that period of time in her life. And at the end, you just bridge the hook to the mission that you're on now, how it connects to why you do what you do. And for her, she just kind of explained the lessons that she learned and how that sets her apart from, she wouldn't word it like this because she's not like competitive in this way, but like really this is how people who mattered viewed it, is like how it sets her apart from every other nurse out there and the mission that she's on, her why of why she is a nurse and why she is doing the job that she has. And you can correlate that as well. And the more bold you are, the more you're separating yourself from the pack. There's a guy who quoted the text that he got when his friend told him that his best friend died, and he like talked about that. And Justin, our chief experience officer, talks about like the last thing that his mom told him before she passed away was like, like people go deep. People can talk about when they got fired from a job, just something that the more embarrassing it is, actually, the more you're going to stand apart from everyone else. Because most people, especially on LinkedIn, Instagram, you're the hottest version of yourself. Well, LinkedIn, you're usually like the most fake professional version of yourself, right? It's all BS most of the time. And the more you can be raw and real in that about section, the more you're going to connect to people. Morgan, just so you guys know, she was a nursing student at the time. She had C-level executives of different hospitals reaching out to her, asking for meetings to convince her to work at their hospital. That does not happen. It doesn't like, that's not how it works. Like CEOs are not doing that, but they would see your profile and they would connect with her immediately. She also had other people that were in her field that like let her know that how much what she put in her about section meant to them and how they relate to her story. Like if she wanted to, and this isn't, I don't think it's her style, she could create like a nursing, like revolution, like tribe thing, and whatever, she could go for it. But have a story, to use a story selling format to explain what it is that you do and why it is that you do. I hate to be cliche, but it's the whole Simon Sinek thing of selling why you do instead of what you do.
Well, I think that's, I mean, I know like people out there are thinking about this and they're like, I don't want to put something that makes me vulnerable or that's embarrassing on my LinkedIn profile, but it will connect you. The person reading that, you will stand out so much more, but also it humanizes you. And the person reading it is a human and they will immediately relate to you, which is what you want. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Everybody.
That's most people's objections. And if you want to be like most people, then say the same excuses that most people have. And that's why, during COVID, everyone's freaking out and all this and that. But my clients, again, I told my clients, hey, if we're not making you money, then fire us. And obviously we kept having clients, we kept having people thriving, making money during this time, having the best. There are some people that like, it has been life-changing. They've never made as much money as they have, and they directly point it back to us during this time. And it's because they're not doing the things that everyone else is doing. They're not saying the same things everyone else is saying. So,
Jimmy, you've shared a wealth of information. I mean, I love chatting with you because you're transparent, you're honest. I think that is, I mean, whenever you have a conversation with somebody that you're selling your services, you're like, if you don't make money, then don't work with us. That negates all like, you're not hard selling anybody. Right. You've given a ton of value on this call, between like how to lay out your LinkedIn profile. What are the 4 areas you need to work on? What is something that you see all of the LinkedIn experts telling people to do that you think is really bad advice, or what's something that you see everybody trying to do on LinkedIn that you would tell them to stop doing?
Yeah, this allows me to sort of bridge it together, because when you ask me what to do, I kind of, for both things, started out with what not to do. And so I mentioned that a little bit already, but there's another key element to my process that I haven't been able to share. And so this is going to bridge the two back together, or the 3 of them together. So obviously it's important to have a good looking profile. Targeting is, honestly, there's plenty of good YouTube videos on targeting. Like you can watch mine or you can watch someone else's. Most of them are pretty good. The third part though is, for most people, okay, they connect with you. Now spam them with this message sequence, right? Well, I already told you guys, how to message people. I call it stand outreach, by the way, outreach that stands out. But that's actually step 4. There's a third step. And so most people don't really do a good job of warming up someone, making them familiar with you before you ever reach out to them. And again, a lot of my prospects or a lot of my clients, they are in a position where they want to present themselves as an authority to the person that they're prospecting. And so how they come across is very important to them. And if the first time that their prospect has ever seen them is when they are showing up in their inbox asking for a meeting, then they know that they're going to look more like a vendor and they're going to have a lower response rate. So what we help our clients do and we teach people to do is find ways to get people to show to see you before you ever show up in their inbox. And most people think that's posting content. And it can be. I think posting content's a great thing. We have someone on our team that his job is to get us to show up all over the place when it comes to posting content, follows me around with the camera and stuff. So we do prioritize it. But something you have to know on LinkedIn is that, let's say like this, there are therapists that help people with their addiction to Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I don't know of any therapists helping people with their addiction to LinkedIn, right? It's not a platform that is like, if you guys have seen what's the Social Dilemma, the documentary, they don't really talk much about LinkedIn. They put the logo on there at one point because you kind of have to. It's a big platform, but it's not an addicting platform. So people aren't like scrolling through the timeline for hours,
right,
and looking at content. So in order for me to show up to my prospects, I realized that the average LinkedIn user is jumping on LinkedIn a few times a week, checking their notifications, and then jumping off. So where do we want to show up? We want to show up in their notifications. Well, then the next question is, what are all the things I can do to show up in my prospects' notifications, right?
That's
and
a great question.
There's a list, right? And so I look at notifications as like ads. It's like free ads. So a big one is liking people's posts. A mutual friend of Steve and I is Nicholas Baerle. If I ever owe Nicholas a text or a message, I know that he's going to go to my Facebook and he's going to like my last 10 posts in a row. And I check my notifications. There's 10 of them. And it's all Nicholas, right? He just bought essentially a ton of ad space in my note in the most addicting area of social media. He just took up the whole ad space, right? That's how you got to view this. So you can like the person's post. You can comment on their post. Imagine this. Imagine if you had dialogue in your prospects' comments on their post before you ever sent them a message. Like they post like, here's how you do the ABCs. And then you comment on it. You're like, hey, like this is really good content. Thanks for sharing. How did you find this information, Justin? And then you like ask them a question. You guys go back and forth in the comments. And then someday you show up shortly thereafter, you show up in their messages. There's like, of all the sea of people that are spamming them, it's like, oh yeah, it's that Jimmy guy that I was going back and forth with a few days ago. You're going to stand out, right? The other thing you can do is endorsing people. So I love the endorsing tool so much because you can target people on LinkedIn. You can make sure that every person that you're sending connection requests to is the CEO of a company with no less than 1,000, 5,000, even 10,000 plus employees. And you can really get micro targeted on there just by paying $80 a month for Sales Navigator.
Sales Navigator is great.
100%. And so we can get super targeted and we can endorse 50 of those people every day. Let's just choose a number 50. That's a good number. Well, we endorse 50 of those people every day and we go to their profile, click the plus sign. Well, you're going to show up in their notifications. It's going to say Jimmy Coleman. It's going to be my picture. It's going to say Jimmy Coleman, endorse you for leadership and 2 other skills. Under that, it's going to have a call to action button. And oftentimes people click that call to action button. It says, say thanks. They click the button and LinkedIn does this intentionally where it's going to auto-populate a message inbox and it's going to say, thanks for endorsing me for leadership. And all your prospect has to do is click send. So imagine 50 times a day, your A+ prospects are 2 clicks away from starting a conversation with you.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, man. So like I figured that part out. I started doing like the happy birthday messages because you get notified everyone's birthday every day, job change, work anniversary, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. I started doing all these things and I wake up every day and I'd have 10, 12, 20, sometimes more people saying thank you to me who were my A+ prospects, people that I was banging my head up against the wall before I had the stand outreach process, trying to figure out a way to get a conversation going with them. And there they were starting the conversation with me. And now that they said thank you, I can just be like, Yeah, sure thing, Josh. By the way, I saw that you're in the blank industry, and now we have a back and forth, and it's normal for me to keep the conversation going. It's actually more weird if I don't respond to their message to me.
Right. That's awesome. I mean, that's like you're basically getting an inbound message and they're saying thank you. And they're like, oh, that was nice. And then you hit them back and you say, oh, we're in the same industry or we're doing this
Right.
or, and they're like,
Make it
oh, and
conversational. Yeah.
it's like networking. It's like being at a networking party and like being at the same bar or being at the
Right.
same table or
Dude, we're
it's
wearing the
much,
same shirt. Like you just found like an open door opportunity to now engage with each other. Now it's normal for you guys to talk.
man, that is really, really good advice. So if you guys are out there listening to this right now and you're like picking up on some of this stuff, go implement it. Now what Jimmy's service does, Lead Baller does all of this automated, correct?
Yeah. We help people set up their target list. We with send the connection request for them. We that's why we call lead baller because we organize it like a baseball field. When someone agrees to connect with you, they're at bat. When let's say we endorse them for a skill, now they're on first base. When we like a few of their posts, now they're on second base. When we comment on a post, now they're on third base. And we don't reach out to anyone until they're on third base. And we measure how warmed up they are before we ever reach out to them. When we reach out to them, again, right now we're the only company in the world sending audio messages at scale. So the client in their onboarding process creates whatever audio message they want to say to someone that's on third base one time, and then we just send it to every person that's on third base for them. So the nut that we cracked is when people are selling things that their average deal size is $50,000, $500,000, or $1 million or something like that. Usually to get the attention of those people, the outreach has to be extremely personalized, which usually means very labor intensive, not scalable at all. You have to send them a cake with their name on it or, send them shoes or whatever. But we found a way to send messages that stand out, have outreach that stands out from what everyone else is doing, but be able to do it at scale so that they can focus on other things. So we would call it a sales enablement tool
I
or
love it.
service. Yeah.
So talk to me just really briefly about what kind of response this has worked. Like an average client of yours comes and works with you. How many successful like opens are people getting? How many successful leads and responses? Because this is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah, it varies. Some clients are more marketable than others, right? Like, it's funny how people do praise me for what we accomplished at TikTok, but that was the most marketable company. Like, hey, do you want to do a thing with TikTok? And it's like, yeah, like at their headquarters, yeah, like that sounds really cool. So that wasn't even a hard thing to sell people on. But when it's like a random solopreneur that no one's ever heard of before, we have to market those people, and that can be more of a challenge. But we're still having success with them. And sometimes what they're offering is more attractive as well, or some people with better case studies. However, the average that we're seeing, most people are having in the first try 1 out of 4, 1 out of 5 people responding to them. There's some people who are getting 50 to 60% of people responding to them. And again, that shows the quality of the offer. In some cases, sometimes the quality of the targeting, but yeah, I mean, the average usually falls in that, 1 to 4, 1 to 5 area.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Jimmy, if somebody is interested and wants more information, they've listened to this and they're like, dude, I need to have that service. Where can they learn more about you? Where should they go to find out, work with you, get going?
Yeah. If they want to, they could probably either talk to me or someone else on my team if they go to leadballer.com. So LEAD baller.com. There's a button at the very top to schedule a call with someone on our team. And it's a two-way interview. As you can probably tell from what I've said earlier in the show, that we really care a lot about getting our clients results. We don't like having any failures. And so we definitely want to make sure that the client's a good fit. So that purpose of that call is to determine whether or not there is a fit. So if you're not even sure, or if you are sure, I would just go to leadballer.com and schedule a call with someone on our team and have a two-way interview, see if there's a good fit.
Awesome. That is I mean, I love that you interview people as well, because you do want to make sure they're a good fit and you want to make sure they're going to get results. Well, Jimmy, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing so many awesome takeaways. I mean, you guys, if you're listening to this, you can take all the things that Jimmy just laid out for you and have a successful LinkedIn campaign, and start getting some leads there. Jimmy, thanks for being on the show.
Absolutely, man.
Guys, thank you all for tuning in. And until next time, take action, change lives, and make money. We'll see you soon. Are you looking to scale your business but trying to figure out how to get your message across? Well, go to storyselling.how to grab my free course that will show you how to discover everything that you need to build your business through stories. These stories work whether it's in social media, email, or public speaking. There are 5 core stories that you'll learn. You'll be able to use all of them by the time you're done with this course. Again, that is storyselling.how. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to tune in next time.